And I think a lot of the times we let other variables get in the way, and then we try to please and we try to like take care of everybody else, but we don't take care of like what's in front of you. We don't take care of like this marriage. We don't take care of this commitment. This is Vivian Villacis.
And this is Raul Villacis.
Welcome to the God, Money, and Purpose podcast. Welcome to the God, Money, and Sex podcast. Now is God, Money, and Purpose. What am I thinking? Oh my goodness.
Amazing job with introduction. Amazing job.
God, Money, and Purpose podcast. My name is Vivian Villacis, and I'm here with the love of my life.
My name is Raul Villacis, and welcome to the God, Money, and Purpose podcast. Right before we started this, I said, I missed the God, Money, and Sex podcast title. And the reason that we changed it to Purpose because we were getting flagged by YouTube. They were thinking we're selling porn.
But we did like the title. It's just like you said it, and then it got in my mind. I'm like, okay.
So God, Money, and Purpose, aka God, Money, and Sex podcast.
That's right. But don't bring that up again, because then now we're gonna get all messed up. So anyway, we're so excited to be here. We have a great topic, and it came about. I think it's mostly from me because I love fairy tale love. I love when people stand up for love and actually get to see the end, not the end result, but actually get to fight for what they love and fight for love. And you were gracious enough to kind of just sit by my side and watch. And for those of you who don't know, the title that we had named this one is 3 Things You Could Do to Save Your Marriage. And I love the fact that we got to see it together, and I just want to kind of just hear a little bit about what we have to say together, because we didn't really talk about it. We just watched it. So we're talking about Oprah and how she had Meghan and Harry in her show, and she did this amazing interview, and I just thought it was just so enlightening how she was able to navigate all these questions, and how Meghan Markle, the Dutchess, how she got to really be so authentic and so brave to share her story. I just, like so many people are so judgmental when it comes to like when you share your story, especially when you're at that status where like everybody's following you, everybody's looking at you, what you have to say, what you have, like the things that you're doing. So I thought it was breathtaking.
So first of all, I want to say disclosure. The first time that you told me, babe, can you watch this with me? I'm like, fuck, I don't want to sit through an Oprah interview. And then we told me who the interview was, like, shit, and now I have to watch this, this fairy tale thing. So then, I took it for the team. I love spending time with you.
Yes, well, you sat with me, but I think you were doing like your own thing for a little bit.
No, but I was tuning in. I was paying attention, and I actually learned a lot from listening to Is the prince, he a prince? Harry, right?
Yeah.
I learned a lot while listening to him.
The royal family.
And seeing how much he loves his woman. And I think that's one of the things that I took away from that interview is that he truly loves his woman because, we live in a world when we idolize celebrities. We idolize all these people, especially when they have so much status. I mean, this guy came from the royal family. I mean, it doesn't get better than that. Like, this is your fairy tale.
And I think that's how it was like for her. Like, I was thinking like that must have been like that for her because you always, as a woman, like we grow up thinking like we're going to marry this prince. And I actually did like a little video about it because that's really like when we grow up, like they sell us this idea of like the prince and the happy ending and all these things. And really the reality is like there's so much more to just marriage. And if you've been following us, Raul and I are married 21 years, and it's hard work. Like I'm not going to take that away. It's a really hard work, and when you actually somewhat get it together, like it's so amazing. It's so just rewarding what relationships could do when you come together.
But I think that is always a work in progress.
It is.
And no matter where you are right now, what stage in marriage you are right now, there's always work that you have to do.
Always.
So I want to give a shout out to all our listeners. If you're listening to us in your podcast stream, or you're listening to us in Facebook or in YouTube, just comment and let us know where you're watching us from. We'd love to interact with the people who listen to us. We always also like to answer questions. If you have any questions, we'll answer them for you. But the topic that we talked about today is how do you save your marriage, right? 3 things to do to save your marriage. And the context is around what we saw in this interview, because my comment to Vivian was, man, that this guy really loves his wife. He really loves his woman. And now he did everything in his power to save his marriage, because that's what he was going for. That's, he's leaving everything to save his marriage.
And they're just beginning, like this is like the start of a beautiful relationship. Because so one of the things that I took away from the very beginning, when I was hearing him and I was hearing her, like they, in the Bible, in Genesis, first point, like that's really what sometimes God tells us and we don't listen to that. And I know for me, that's how it was, because in Genesis 12, and I wrote it down because I didn't want to like not have the right verse. Genesis 12, it says, you will leave your country, you will leave your people and your father's household, and you will go to the land that I will show you. So I was thinking about that. I'm like, God, that's like so pertaining not only to them, but like to all of us, because sometimes like we have to leave our parents, we have to leave like something so familiar, yet we don't have that transition of like, okay, I'm leaving this that's so known, so safe, so sacred, and I'm going to move into this marriage. And I know for me, it was like, I wouldn't say it was difficult. It was just foreign, because obviously like we were so young and nobody really helps us through that. Like for her, it was so difficult because she was leaving everything behind. Like she left everything that she knew, like her parents, her country. She left everything and she left to go be there with him.
Yeah, so
and honor that part.
So looking back in when we got married, right? I was clear that I wanted to, we were looking to buy the house before we got married, right? And we were both like, we were selling everything that we own, like to buy this property.
House,
We actually sold your car.
We sold everything
to have a down payment for the house.
Yes.
And when we moved into this, little tiny apartment, it was the 2 of us, and something about just building your life together and starting from nothing and starting together. I think that sometimes, people don't appreciate the fact that, that starting from nothing and building it together, it builds a bond, a stronger bond. Now you take, Prince Harry, right? That's his name.
Yep.
And he brought him
Meghan
into his family's castle.
Yes.
So now everything was given to him. So there's no appreciation for building. I think that's where, you start looking at where marriages fail, is when, you move in together and, one person already has built a life, another person has already built a life, and there is no common ground of building something together. I think now they're in a space that, okay, we left everything behind. We left the royal family. She left his family. Now both now in the grind. Now both are in the hustle. Now both are going to create whatever life they want together. And I think that's the first thing. Is you have to leave everything to create a life of unity.
I thought it was cool how like she left everything behind first for him. And now he has to leave everything behind for her. And then they get to come and, to the United States where they are now and get to start all over again. And that's the hard part. But I thought like coming to point number 2 is like, when you have this clear vision, you have this clear understanding, like what is it that we want together? And I think that's something that you and I could relate to. And I was sitting at the edge of my chair like the whole time, just like, yes, like that's me. Yes, I just thought like, yes, there's so much of that happening, right? It's like we get to have this clear vision as to what do we want in our marriage? What are we committing to? And I think, like what I got to see in them is like they were so clear as to what they wanted. They were like, okay, no more giving into somebody else's reality. How do we create ours? What is going to be our legacy? And I think for you and I, that's where like we kind of, our vision when we became so clear, or maybe not so clear, but when it became clear individually, then it's like, oh, okay, now we could do this together.
But I think also part of the vision is knowing what the foundation is. And then the foundation for them is, okay, is us against the world, right?
Yeah.
And the moment that I believe marriages fail because
they don't have that.
They don't have that, like us against the world. Is like, okay, if you're not in my world, then, you're not going to be part
then
of
they're fighting between each other.
My vision.
Yeah. Then it's like a big mess within the household. Then how could you fight something else?
But I think also it's hard, I look back on for my culture, right? The Spanish community, it's hard for you to leave your family, that's a concept that I had to be okay with, knowing that like I love my family. I love my mom, my dad, my grand, like we are part of a tight family, but I knew that when we got married, now you are going to be the most important person in my life.
I know, but that doesn't always happen.
But it's hard to even, for your family to understand. What do you mean?
Yeah.
Like, your mother's the most important person in your life. Your grandmother's the most important. You just met this woman. Now it's the most important person in your life. So as men, we have to also like make that decision. Okay, no more. Like, if you get married, this woman is the most important woman in your life.
Yeah.
This guy stood up to his grandmother, like the queen. He stood up to everyone and said, okay, if you don't love my woman, if you don't love the most important person in my life, then I guess you don't love me, and I'm gonna take my chances on my own.
And that's so like amazing, because then there's the community in itself kind of brings shame to that. So it's like, if you didn't, like how you said, like if you didn't honor your mother or the queen at this, specific story, it's like, if you didn't stay there, then shame on you. Like, you should know better. But really, I just, just to see them sitting together and confronting all of this was absolutely amazing to me.
And just to show you that no matter where you are, like who you are, there's always going to be drama in your life.
Yeah.
Like, we look at stories like this, like, shit, if they have problems living in a palace, I mean, we all have problems, so idolizing marriages like that, or even like, everybody has their own shit to deal with.
And that's kind of like one of the big things too that I took away too was like this sense of like perfection for them. Like, I just thought it was so amazing how like they got to share how the true authentic feelings and everything that they were going through, despite the fact that social media, the royal family wanted them to pretend to be this perfectionism to like, that's not happening. I'm not feeling that. I'm not feeling depressed, or I'm not, feeling all these things.
It was crazy. I mean, when she said that, she was having suicidal thoughts,
and she was asking for help.
And then all of a sudden said, no, you don't, we can't help you because we don't want people to think that you're having problems. I think that's the biggest challenge. I speak for men, is like, if we stop pretending, it's gonna be much easier for us to find the help that we need. Like when I was going through my drinking problems, when I was going through my midlife crisis, when I was going through the most uncertain time, like I was pretending to the world that everything was fine. So when I kind of snapped and I said, okay, I'm gonna go do this, and I'm gonna go to India, and I'm gonna meditate, and everybody's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, you look fine a week ago.
Yeah.
But they didn't know the months, or probably years of sedation, of depression that I was going through until something had to happen. And thank God that there was nothing that could have happened that could have been worse. But I know what it's like. I mean, I really connected with her when she said suicidal thoughts, dark moments, because you think about, like, how could she have those moments, right? Why, she lives in a castle, she lives in a palace.
You think that she wouldn't have those feelings?
You think that what are you depressed about, right?
Yeah.
But that mental health issue is real.
Yeah.
Like, you could be depressed and you could be living in a mansion. You could be depressed and you could live in a castle.
Yeah.
Like, the moment that people understand that is a state. It's when you lose your drive, when you lose your purpose, when you lose your the reason why to do things. Yeah. That dark cloud continues to puts you down into a downward spiral.
And then for him to hold the space for her, and I think that's also what we talk about a lot in here, is like, can you hold the space for your woman to go through what she never to go through? Like you say, like, you'll be the container to help her go through what she's going through, and then it's like, okay, how can I help you? And I think that's really what men could do, is just like hold the space as a container, as a safe container for her to feel that, and to just be totally vulnerable and say, like, this is what I'm feeling. And what else
what I saw in the interview was also the way that he held us, like, acknowledge where she was at.
Yeah.
But
didn't shame her
or at the same time stuck to his truth. The truth is that he felt that he was trapped. And he didn't know that he was trapped. That's the unconscious behavior. Like, we don't know the shit that we do until somebody. You don't know what you don't know. Until somebody says, "Hey, like, here's this is another life."
Yeah.
And I'm looking back and seeing online a lot of guys giving him a lot of shit, saying that he doesn't wear the pants on the family or whatever. Like, listen, at the end of the day, we can't judge because we're not in their shoes. The only thing that we could see is from the appearances.
Yeah.
But I respect any man that says, I'm gonna make my own path. I'm not gonna go into somebody else's kingdom. I always say this: you can't be a king in somebody else's kingdom.
Yes.
So you have to build your own kingdom. You have to. So I respect anybody who says, "Listen, I'm gonna start my own thing.
Yeah.
I'll do my own thing and build my own path." So at the end of the day, that's what they're doing. He's holding it down, and he's probably going to use his connections to to build his own kingdom.
Yeah.
But he loves his woman. He wants to be with her no matter what happens.
Yeah.
And you can't knock that. Like that. I respect any man that's gonna fight for love. I respect any man that's gonna fight for what he wants.
That's so admirable. Yeah, because a lot of the times that doesn't happen, which kind of leads me to point number 3 is really honoring your commitment to each other. And I think a lot of the times we let other variables get in the way, and then we try to please and we try to like take care of everybody else, but we don't take care of like what's in front of you. We don't take care of like this marriage. We don't take care of this commitment, and that's where we fail. And I think if we could do that, then more marriages would be saved. And just from like you honoring that commitment that you made to each other, it's like, I'm gonna love you, I'm gonna protect you, I'm gonna be here for you, whether it's good or bad. I'm gonna be here. So for him to like really be there for her and get uncomfortable, because right now I'm sure they're not in a comfortable place. Like he was always royalty, always taken care of, and all of a sudden like I gotta take care of everything now. Like I am the king of this castle, I gotta show up.
But see, commitment doesn't happen one time. I think a lot of people mistake that. Okay, I'm committed to a relationship, right? And I'm in a committed relationship. Then commitment, the part of commitment has to be recommitting every single time.
Yeah.
You know, I talk about with my guys all the time, reset, recharge, and recommit. Like you have to reset your mind, let it go of all the shit that is holding you back. Recharge. You know, sometimes we have to take time off. Like, you know, every week we take our day nights. That's a way for me to recharge, for us to recharge. At the same time, recommit. And recommit happens every single day. Recommit to your marriage, recommit to your business, recommit to your vision, recommit to what you do. And that's where the practice of recommitment or recommitting to things is going to enhance the commitment.
Yeah.
Because a commitment, I heard somebody say, obligation without commitment creates chaos. Because sometimes people think that they're obligated to be in a marriage, but they lack the commitment. Am I committed to fight for this woman? People ask me all the time. Men ask me all the time, Raul, how do you know that you love your wife enough to be with her, to fight for her? I said, if something happens and you have to jump in front of her to save her, like will you take a bullet for your wife? Will you die for her? And if the answer is no, and you're second guessing yourself, well, that just tells you right there, like where you are. If you're thinking like, okay, if a brother comes in and then you know ends up dead, and okay, I'm okay with it, then that means that there's
like you would die
was love,
for that
but
love.
yeah, you have to be able to
you would die for that
be willing
love.
to die for that woman, die for that love.
Yeah.
And that's when you have that passion and that purpose that's going to drive you to recommit every single time.
Yeah. And I think that's pretty much what their story is like. That's what he did. Like he was willing to die in that old self of like the old belief of who he was. And all of a sudden, like now there's a new love story, a new beginning for them, a new commitment. Like you said, like to recommit to this new marriage, because now it's totally different for them, I'm sure. And I think a lot of the times, like even marriages, like our marriages, our relationships, our partnerships, it's like we don't take the time to recommit to this new version of us. Like I know that's happened for us. Is like I'm another person, and I think that's one of the biggest reasons why I love to like do this little ceremonies and stuff when we have our anniversary, because it's a time for us to say like, okay, I'm not this person anymore. This is all of this. It's the new me. Are you still willing to love that part of me? Are you still willing to commit to that part of me? And if it's like a yes, then I love you that much more for it. And if not, then I still love myself for it.
And so right there is where you're hitting that loving for yourself and loving something more than you.
Yeah.
I love what they said at the end, towards the end, that there's a force, right? They didn't say it was God, or they didn't acknowledge it was God, but they said there was forces around them that kind of like took care of them and freed them, right? At the end, they felt like they were free. Like, okay, now they could start a life.
Yeah.
And I think that's the foundation of having God in your marriage.
Yeah.
You know, that's the prayer of like,
there's
you know,
nothing like it.
Like remembering that when a man and a woman come together, become one, that's where God could use them to be able to fulfill its purpose.
Yeah.
And if you listen to this podcast, the one thing is if you don't live for something bigger than you, then you're just living in the consciousness of what's in it for me. What's life gonna do for me? What's my wife going to do for me? What are my kids or my business gonna do for me? Everything is about you.
Yeah.
And I coach a lot of men, and I see a lot of men, and the main thing we do is start to shift the mentality from the I consciousness into the one consciousness.
Yeah.
What can I do for the world? What's the impact that I want to create? So in your marriage, bringing God, bringing a higher power allows you to have a solid foundation that is going to guide you, because we don't have all the answers. As a man, I tell you, I don't have all the answers. There's days that I wake up like, fuck, like, what am I gonna do? The mind continues to play the tricks of going back into the old version of yourself until I reset, recharge, or connect, and I listen to the voice of God telling me, just one more day, Raul, one more day. You're here just to live one more day, create the impact that you were born to create, and just trust in the process and trust that life is giving you exactly what you need to grow and expand.
Yeah. And I love that, because I think a lot of the times, like, we don't, like you said, like, we don't have the answers, but God does. And if we just take the time to even connect to those promises, because a lot of the times, like, when I feel lost, or when I felt lost in our marriage, or in myself, in my relationship to myself, it's like, I didn't know where to turn. And the minute that you turn to God, like, the answers are just right there. And it's so effortless when he speaks to you, and it's little gentle reminders of knowing, like, hey, I loved you first, so you could love back.
And that's the first thing that I would say. If you want to save your marriage, find something that is bigger than your marriage. It can't just be about you. It can't just be about what what she or he could do for you. You have to leave everything. Just like the Bible says, you leave everything. God said, leave everything and follow me, right? So when you get married, I mean, the union of marriage is also like a significant way in the Bible of
taking away all those
taking away everything that you love to love somebody else. Just like God said, I love you so much, I gave you my only son.
Yes.
And he died for you. So that's the connection, right? When I'm remembering some of the Bible studies, is like the church and God, right? How the church is the bride.
Yes.
Right. And
how do you act with your bride?
And how God looks at the bride as like this is my most precious jewel, and that's what I believe, that we have to start looking at our marriages. This is our precious jewel. This is what is ordained in here. This is the choice that I made, the commitment that I made. So now, if things don't go right, are you gonna quit? Are you gonna argue? Are you gonna play the victim, or are you gonna ask for guidance? Are you gonna ask for help and leave everything and just say, what can I do today to get closer to that image?
I love that.
I was talking to one of my clients that he's single, and he's like, how do you know that, tell your wife that I'm looking for a queen, right? And I remember you and I had a conversation about him, and I said, what can I tell him about finding a queen? And you said, does he even know what his characteristics of a king? Does he even know if he's a king or not? Yeah. So I went back and I was talking to him today. I said, give me 5 characteristics of a king. Like, how will you show up when you're a king? So we went through it. And then I said, do you believe you exude every single one of these characteristics 100%? He goes, no. So, well, that's why you need to work on those. Yeah. The queen will show up.
Yeah, I was going to say that the minute that he does that, it's like he truly knows who he is, and he's worked on himself. He's taking care of himself. Then God is so good that he will put the right person in front of him, next to him, if we're in tune to what. Sometimes we think we want someone a certain way, but it doesn't look that way. It looks totally different than what our mind thinks. But the heart is so good because it knows, right? So yeah, this podcast has been totally about love and about relationships, but that's really a key focus of everything, like how the world revolves. It's through God, it's through love. And if you, again, like just quickly, like 3 takeaways, it's like you leave everything that you think that whether it's your parents, country, land, riches, and you are one with your partner, with your wife, with your husband. 2, I think really just get clear on your vision and the connection as to like something bigger than yourself. And 3, what would you say was the last one if we had to say 3?
Build your kingdom with your queen or with your king together. Sometimes when you are your worst, when you find out who you truly are. Yeah. And I know that sometimes money and business it's one of the main pressures for marriages, but also an opportunity for you to really see who's with you. And if you're having right now financial problems or health problems, that's the best time for you to see who is your partner. Are you willing to fight for them? Are you willing to go all in for them?
Yeah, I love that. I love you, Baba.
I love you more. So beautiful. So let's give a shout out to a couple of people who are watching us. Nathan, Roy, Jeffrey, Tad Miller, Patricia, Miguel, Courtney. Appreciate you guys watching us through our Facebook feed. Send us a message if you have any questions.
I love that.
I love this conversation about building your kingdom. I think that's where we've sometimes failed, because we think that the kingdom is in the outside, when the reality is the kingdom that we're talking about is the kingdom from within. Are you willing to build your kingdom from within?
Yeah.
The moment that you build yourself and you become the king, you become the queen, the king will show up, the queen will show up. And if you're looking to save your marriage, first have some faith that God already saved you first. God already has done the work. All we need to do is claim that promise and fulfill that promise in this world.
That's right. I love it. Thank you. Awesome. So thank you for following us. Thank you for the questions. Thank you for showing up. If you are not following us, please do so and share. I mean, this is just amazing how we get all this support and all this love. And I just want to thank each and every one of you.
Learn it, live it, experience it.
Love life.
If you receive any value from this conversation, comment, subscribe, and share as we continue to impact more people and take it to the next level.
And please send us your comments and questions so we could answer them in the next podcast.
See you in the next episode.